I'm so glad you're here on Star and Stories. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel, Star and Stories, and tell me in the comments where you're listening to this tale of revenge from. I want to know how far it's traveled around the world. Now, let's dive into this gripping story of betrayal, discovery, and sweet payback. I sat at the kitchen table, the silence in the house wrapping around me like a heavy blanket, thick and suffocating, much like the morning fog that often rolled in from the nearby hills. The old clock on the wall, a cherished wedding gift from my late mother, ticked away, with a steady, almost judgmental rhythm, each second echoing like a reminder of the life I had built, the one that now felt like it was unraveling thread by thread. My husband, Julian, had just stumbled in from yet another one of his so-called business dinners. He didn't look just tired. He looked haunted, as if some invisible burden was pressing down on him, carving deeper lines into his face around his eyes and mouth, lines that hadn't been there even a year ago. He flung his jacket carelessly onto the sofa, yanked at his tie like it was choking him, and then collapsed onto the bed without so much as a word or a shower. The familiar creak of the mattress springs under his weight used to be comforting, but now it grated on my nerves. As he settled in, a faint whiff of his expensive cologne lingered in the air, but it was tainted by something else, a sweet, floral perfume that didn't belong to him or to me. It was an intruder, a silent admission of secrets he thought I couldn't detect. Minutes later, his snoring started up, a low rumble that once lulled me to sleep but now sounded like a cruel joke, mocking my naivety. I rose from the table with the quiet precision honed from 40 years of marriage, moving like a shadow through our home. I began tidying up the living room, picking up his scattered belongings, his jacket, wallet, cell phone, even his outdated laptop. His phone screen was still illuminated, displaying a new email that glowed ominously in the dim light. I paused, frowning. Julian had always claimed to hate email. "Juliet, all this tech nonsense is too complicated for me. I'd rather just pick up the phone," he'd say with that charming grin of his. Yet here was an email, staring back at me like a challenge. It was from an unfamiliar address, a random string of letters and numbers that meant nothing at first glance. Out of a curiosity that felt both forbidden and urgent, I tapped it open. The message was brief, devastatingly so. "You were incredible tonight, Dad," followed by a single red heart emoji. I froze, the word dad reverberating in my mind like a slap. Who was calling him that in such an intimate way? My thumb trembled as I scrolled for more, but there was nothing else, just that cryptic address offering no further clues. A chill crept up my spine, not from the cool night air, but from a deep-seated fear that something fundamental in my world was cracking. I glanced toward the bedroom, where Julian had rolled over, his snoring sputtering for a moment before settling back into rhythm. His face looked so peaceful in sleep, an infuriating contrast to the turmoil churning inside me. My heart raced like I'd been caught in the act, even though I was the one uncovering secrets. I quickly placed the phone back where it was, my hands shaking so badly I nearly dropped it. To steady myself, I continued cleaning, gathering his dirty clothes for the laundry. As I checked the pockets of his pants, a habit from years of marriage, I felt the crinkle of paper. Pulling it out, I unfolded a receipt from a high-end steakhouse in San Antonio, dated that very evening. San Antonio? He told me the meeting was in Dallas. A bitter chuckle escaped my lips before I could stop it. Julian despised the drive to Dallas, always complaining about the traffic and the distance. But San Antonio? That was where his mother had lived before she passed, a place filled with his fond childhood memories, ones he'd shared with me over cozy dinners early in our marriage. The receipt was for a party of two, an expensive bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon, the same wine he'd gifted me on our 10th anniversary. A night I still remembered vividly, with candlelight and toast and entrees of filet mignon and pasta. When was the last time he'd taken me somewhere like that? It had to be over a decade ago, right after I opened my first bakery. That memory, once so precious, now twisted into something sour. With a resolve I didn't know I had, I snapped photos of the receipt and the email on my own phone. A wife's intuition, especially after 40 years, isn't just a hunch, it's a gut-deep certainty. Something was terribly wrong, and I needed to uncover it before it consumed me. My hands still trembling with a mix of fury and dread, I made my way to the garage. Julian's old SUV sat there, the engine still ticking as it cooled, the air heavy with gasoline and that same intrusive, floral scent clinging to everything. I opened the driver's side door, my stomach nodding in anticipation. Turning on my phone's flashlight, I scanned the interior meticulously. The driver's seat yielded. Nothing unusual, just some coins and an empty water bottle. But when I leaned over to the passenger side and popped open the glove compartment, my fingers brushed against something smooth and plastic. I pulled it out, and my breath caught a tube of personal lubricant, half used, with dried residue crusting the cap. It was like holding a grenade. Julian and I hadn't been intimate in years. He always blamed it on age and exhaustion. So, what was this for? The question burned in my mind, fueling a fire I couldn't extinguish. Forcing myself to stay composed, I placed it back exactly as I'd found it, then wiped my hands vigorously on a napkin, as if I could scrub away the betrayal. I continued my search, more thorough now, and under the back seat, I discovered crumpled napkins reeking of that same sweet perfume, not a man's scent, and certainly not my gentle rose one. It was bold, unapologetic, screaming infidelity. I photographed it all, capturing every damning detail, then closed up the car and retreated inside. Back at the kitchen table, the weight of it all pressed down on me like sacks of flour from my bakery days. Picking up Julian's phone again, I delved deeper. His messages were all work-related, sterile, and unremarkable. The email inbox was sparse, save for that one message. Folders for sent and drafts were empty to empty, suspiciously pristine, as if scrubbed clean. My anger solidified into something colder, more calculated, a thirst for the full truth. The next morning, as dawn painted the sky in soft hues filtering through the curtains, I was already up, haunted by visions of the lubricant, the receipt, that email. I busied myself in the kitchen, preparing a simple breakfast, fried eggs, toast, and Julian's preferred strong black coffee. Sleep had evaded me all night. He shuffled down soon after, disheveled and groggy, slumping into his chair. He sipped his coffee halfway, then muttered in a gravelly voice, "Important meeting today, probably home late." He avoided my eyes, the words wrote, rehearsed. I nodded with a forced smile, biting back questions like where? Or with whom? San Antonio again? Instead, I said mildly, "Okay, drive safe." He rose, patted my shoulder absent-mindedly, a gesture that once felt loving, but now seemed dismissive, and left. The door clicked shut, leaving me in echoing silence with my suspicions morphing into conviction. I couldn't just sit idle, spinning theories. I needed facts. Dialing an old friend, Mrs. Miller, who had supported me through opening my bakery, I asked for the number of a private investigator she'd once mentioned, Thomas. Discreet and effective in infidelity cases. "Juliet, if you ever need him, she'd said. I never imagined I would. My voice shook as I called her. "Can you connect me with Thomas? I need his help." After a pause heavy with unspoken understanding, she agreed. An hour later, Thomas texted, arranging a noon meeting at a quiet downtown cafe. The cafe was cozy, with scarred wooden tables and the rich aroma of fresh coffee. But it offered no comfort. I chose a corner booth, away from prying eyes. Thomas arrived, mid-40s, sturdy build, in a plain blue shirt, his eyes sharp and knowing. I handed him a flash drive with my photos, the email, receipt, lubricant, napkins. "This is everything," I whispered, voice cracking. I think he's cheating." The words hung heavy. He reviewed them impassively, jotting notes. "I'll start tailing him this afternoon, Mrs. Roberts. Stay calm. I'll update you soon." His compassion was a small balm. I left feeling isolated amid the bustling streets. 40 years of trust reduced to hiring a stranger to spy on my husband. That evening, in my bakery surrounded by the comforting scents of yeast and sugar, reviewing invoices, my phone buzzed. Thomas's message, a photo of Julian entering an upscale restaurant, hand in hand with a woman. Zooming in, my world tilted. Allison, my daughter-in-law. Full last section continues till the end. Dawn brought bakery work, channeling fury into dough. Home for breakfast, I announced a fake Nashville trip for a contract. Thank you for listening to this dark and emotional tale here on Star and Stories. What would you have done if you were in Juliet's place? Tell me in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Because every story hides another secret waiting to be told.